Imagine you're the president of a small country in Southeast Asia. Your cities need internet infrastructure. Your people need mobile networks. Your government needs data centers. You have two options. Option 1. Borrow from Western institutions at commercial rates. Use Western companies. Meet Western standards. Accept Western audits. Option 2. Call Huawei. Huawei arrives with cheap credit from Chinese state banks. A construction team that starts within weeks. Equipment that costs half what Western competitors charge. No audits, no conditions, no questions about press freedom or judicial independence. Just infrastructure. Fast, cheap, and fully operational. 40 countries have already made that call, and when they did not just get internet infrastructure. They got China's version of the internet, the cables, the towers, the data centers, the surveillance systems, the censorship tools, the model laws to implement all of it. A complete kit. The West built one internet. China is building another one. By the time the West realized what was happening, China had already wired half the developing world. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how China is exporting a parallel digital order, and why the internet your children inherit may be split in two. Here is the part nobody explains clearly. The internet was never one thing. It was always a set of technical standards, agreed upon by mostly Western institutions, running on mostly Western-owned infrastructure, governed by mostly Western rules. ICANN, the body that controls domain names, is headquartered in Los Angeles. The root servers that make the internet function are mostly in the United States and Europe. Cloudflare, AWS, and Google collectively handle a majority of global web traffic. The undersea cables carrying 95% of all international data were mostly American and European owned. This was not a conspiracy. It was just how the internet developed. The companies with the capital built the infrastructure. The infrastructure shaped the rules. The rules benefited the companies that built it. China looked at this system and drew one conclusion. The internet is not neutral infrastructure. It is American infrastructure. And whoever controls the infrastructure controls what flows through it. So China decided to build its own. Not inside China. China already had the Great Firewall for that. Outside China, across Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. Everywhere, the existing infrastructure was weak, expensive, or absent. China would build the replacement, and the replacement would run on Chinese standards, with Chinese equipment, connected to Chinese clouds, governed by Chinese norms. Here's the detail that changes everything. In 2017, China formalized the Digital Silk Road as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. It is not a single project. It is a strategy with 4 components running simultaneously. First, undersea cables. HMN Technologies, formerly Huawei Marine, has laid or upgraded cables connecting Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. China aims to control 60% of the global undersea cable market by 2025. 13 of those 62 cables are already Chinese-owned, built, or upgraded. Second, terrestrial fiber and 5G networks. Huawei and ZTE have built mobile networks in over 170 countries. In Cambodia, Nepal, Thailand, and Malaysia, Chinese companies now dominate digital infrastructure. Third, cloud and data centers. Alibaba Cloud, Huawei Cloud, and Tencent Cloud are expanding across Southeast Asia and Africa at prices Amazon and Microsoft cannot match in developing markets. Fourth, smart city systems. China has exported smart city technology to 106 countries, 53 in Asia, 30 in Europe, 15 in Africa. Each smart city system includes cameras, sensors, data processing infrastructure, and software that feeds into a central government platform. All 4 components point in the same direction. Whoever builds the infrastructure sets the standards, and China is building it faster than anyone else. Now here is where this gets genuinely alarming. The infrastructure China exports does not just carry data. It shapes what data is allowed to exist. In 2024, Radio Free Asia published a detailed report on Chinese internet exports across the Indo-Pacific. The conclusion was stark. In countries where Huawei and ZTE dominate the infrastructure market, Beijing's model of the internet is expanding alongside the hardware. Cambodia introduced a national internet gateway in 2021. All internet traffic must now pass through a single government-controlled choke point. The technology enabling that gateway was built by Chinese companies. Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia all adopted cybersecurity laws after receiving Chinese technical assistance. Those laws criminalize content that undermines national security. A phrase defined so broadly it covers journalism, political opposition, and social media criticism. Ethiopia received Chinese surveillance systems under a smart city agreement. The same cameras that were sold as traffic management tools were later used to track political protesters. This is the full kit. Not just cables, not just towers, cables, towers, surveillance systems, model laws, training for government officials. How to implement all of it. China is not selling internet infrastructure. It is selling a template for how to control a population using internet infrastructure. And 40 countries have signed the agreement to receive it. Here's the part that explains why this is accelerating right now. Western internet infrastructure in developing countries has a fundamental problem. It is expensive. A country in sub-Saharan Africa wanting a national fiber network faces costs most developing economies cannot absorb. Financing, construction timelines, technology prices. The World Bank and Asian Development Bank provide financing, but with conditions and at rates that reflect commercial risk. China offers something different. The China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China provide financing at below-market rates. The loans come with one condition that is never written in the contract but always present. Use Chinese equipment, hire Chinese construction firms, connect to Chinese cloud services. A country that accepts this package does not just get internet infrastructure, it gets locked in. The equipment runs on Chinese standards. The maintenance contracts require Chinese technicians. The software updates come from Chinese servers. Switching to a different provider later means ripping out the entire system and starting again. This is the same strategy China used in ports, and in roads, and in railways. Build the infrastructure so cheaply that no one else can compete. Lock in the dependency before the country understands what it has agreed to. And then the infrastructure becomes leverage, not immediately, but permanently. Here is the number that reframes everything. By 2025, China aimed to capture 60% of the global fiber optic communications market. That is not 60% of a niche industry. Fiber optic cables carry 95% of all international internet traffic. Every email between London and Mumbai, every financial transaction between New York and Singapore, every government communication between Brussels and Nairobi, every military cable between Washington and its overseas bases. Not access in theory, physical access. All of it travels as pulses of light through glass fibers on the ocean floor. If China controls 60% of those fibers, it has physical access to 60% of global international data flows. Not access in theory, physical access. The cable runs through infrastructure Chinese companies own or operate. Data flowing through it can be copied, analyzed, or disrupted. This is not speculation. This is how every major intelligence agency treats foreign-owned undersea cables. In February 2024, leaked documents from Chinese contractor iSoon revealed something extraordinary, an active hacking campaign targeting Digital Silk Road partner countries, not adversaries, partners. Countries that had signed cooperation agreements with China were being targeted by Chinese state hackers simultaneously. The infrastructure agreement and the surveillance operation were not contradictions. They were the same strategy, running at the same time. The partner countries did not know. Most of them still do not. But the iSoon leak was only the surface. The deeper issue is structural. When a country's entire internet runs on Chinese equipment, China does not need to hack it. The access is already built in. Every software update that comes from a Chinese server is an opportunity. Every maintenance contract that requires Chinese technicians on site is an opportunity. You do not need to break into a house you helped build. You already have the key. The West exports internet infrastructure and expects the internet to liberalize the country that receives it. This was the theory behind letting China into the World Trade Organization in 2001. The internet would open China, trade would open China, integration would open China. None of it worked. China took the integration and built the Great Firewall anyway. China learned a different lesson from that experience. The internet does not automatically liberalize anything. The internet is a tool. Its political effect depends entirely on who controls the infrastructure it runs on. If you control the infrastructure, you control the political effect. So when China exports internet infrastructure, it does not expect the receiving country to become more liberal. It expects the receiving country to become more like China, not immediately, not through coercion, through dependency, technical standards, and the slow alignment of governance norms with the country that built the system. This is China's theory of digital power. Build the infrastructure, set the standards, train the officials, export the laws, and wait. The alignment happens gradually, without a single shot fired, without a single treaty signed that anyone in the West would recognize as a threat. Here is the honest part of what China has and has not yet achieved. 60% of the global fiber optic market is a target, not a confirmed achievement. As of 2025, Chinese companies control a significant but not dominant share of undersea cables. Western companies, Subcom and Alcatel, still build major cable systems, particularly those connecting the United States to its allies. The United States has moved aggressively to block Chinese cable projects in the Pacific. The Pacific Light Cable Network would have connected the U.S. to Hong Kong. The FCC blocked it in 2021. Several other Chinese linked cable projects have faced regulatory rejection in Western jurisdictions. In 5G, the picture is mixed. The United Kingdom, Australia, Sweden, and a growing list of countries have banned Huawei from their core 5G infrastructure. The Clean Network Initiative, launched in 2020, encouraged dozens of countries to choose non-Chinese providers. But the Clean Network works only where countries have a viable alternative. In many developing markets, the alternative does not exist at competitive prices, which means the choice is not China versus the West. It is China versus nothing, and nothing does not build infrastructure. China does. Here is what the West's response has gotten wrong. The response has focused almost entirely on security. Huawei equipment might contain backdoors. Chinese cables might be tapped. Chinese data centers might share data with Beijing. These concerns are legitimate, but they miss the more important dynamic. Even if every piece of Chinese infrastructure were completely secure and never used for surveillance, the dependency problem remains. A country that builds its digital economy on Chinese infrastructure has made a structural choice. Which country standards it integrates with, whose software ecosystem it joins, whose governance model it follows. That choice shapes every future decision the country makes about its digital economy. Europe discovered this with energy. When Germany decided its economy would run on Russian gas, it did not think it was making a geopolitical choice. It thought it was making an economic one. When Russia cut the gas, Germany discovered there is no economic choice that is not also a geopolitical one. Countries that build their internet on Chinese infrastructure are making the same choice Germany made with Russian gas. They are not thinking about it as geopolitics. They are thinking about it as affordable broadband. And by the time the geopolitical dimension becomes visible, the infrastructure is already in the ground. The cables are laid, the towers are up, the software is running, the officials have been trained on Chinese frameworks. Ripping it out means rebuilding from scratch. No country with limited resources does that willingly. This is why structural dependency is more durable than any treaty or alliance. Treaties can be canceled. Alliances can be broken. But infrastructure that runs your economy cannot be switched off without shutting down the economy itself. Germany understood this only after Russia cut the gas. By then, the leverage had already been exercised. The lesson for every country now signing a digital cooperation agreement with China is the same. The price of cheap infrastructure today is paid in autonomy tomorrow. That trade is rarely spelled out in the agreement. It is always present in the outcome. Here is the full picture. China has signed digital cooperation agreements with 40 countries. It has exported internet infrastructure to 106 countries. It aims to control 60% of the global undersea cable market. Chinese telecom companies have built mobile networks in over 170 countries. Chinese smart city systems are operating in 53 Asian countries, 30 European countries, and 15 African countries. Each system includes cameras, sensors, and data platforms connected to Chinese software. The ISOON leak revealed that partner countries were being hacked while cooperation agreements were in effect. Cambodia, Tanzania, Ethiopia all adopted internet governance laws modeled on Chinese frameworks after receiving Chinese technical assistance. This is not the Belt and Road Initiative. It is not infrastructure diplomacy. It is the construction of a parallel digital order, one that runs on Chinese standards, connects to Chinese clouds, governed by Chinese norms, maintained by Chinese technicians whose access never ends. The West built one internet and assumed everyone would use it. China built another one instead, without asking permission. By the time partner countries understand what they agreed to, the infrastructure is already in the ground. The technicians are already on contract. The standards are already written into national law. Switching costs are prohibitive. The dependency is structural, and structural dependency is the point. Subscribe if you want to follow where this leads, and leave your answer in the comments. If the internet splits in two, which half of the world ends up on which side, and who decides?